All right, and welcome back for the episode of Carnivore Trades. Today is Monday, October 24th, 2022. If you're not done so, already, give the video a thumbs up, like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com for swing trading alerts and analysis. Anyways, market up here today, last Friday. So there's likely a chance we get a little bit more upside in this market. I don't think it lasts very long, though. But as you can see, spiders breaking through that kind of 378 area there. As we flip over here to the daily time frame, again, kind of coinciding with that little pivot high, that closing high from October 4th. And we're getting a nice little pop through that. There's a pivot high here at 379.46. High of the day here. Just went through that a little bit, went up to 380.06. So we're right into kind of this risk zone. And really the pattern I'm following now, and to show you here on the ES, by the way, I told you guys last week, we should get to that 38.25 handle based off of the measured move. And, you know, more or less today, we basically got there. So high of the day, 38.22. We'll call that filled for right now. But what I'm watching now, and we'll flip over here to the 4 hour. It's a little bit easier to see, but we got some parallel lines starting to build up here. So if we take the low from the CPI, and then we just copy that line here, you can see you've got a nice parallel pattern here. Where does that seem to line up? Well, you know, if we were to, inch up tomorrow and you get up to that upper trend line, it'll take you right to that 3,900 handle where was the previous breakdown. What could be a catalyst to get us up there? Well, we've got earnings tomorrow. Microsoft, Google, I believe Visa, among a few others, and I believe, Apple and Amazon and Meta report later this week, but tomorrow a couple of big ones. So we do have potential to get up there, and what is intriguing to me is if you take this topside trend line, where does that line up? Right into that 50-day moving average. So could be, if we flip on the lines back here again, that was kind of been that key pivotal area we've been talking about for a long time now, 3,900. That's been a big line in the sand, big move down. We told you guys I went long this for the quick bounce. We got a nice bounce, then that broke. We haven't been able to get back up there, but then, again, you still have a little bit of, these pivots here at 38.50. So this is kind of your risk zone though, 3,900, 38.50. And, you flip these lines back on, it does look like the market probably wants to go there. And again, what could be the catalyst for almost a 100-point move? It's definitely earnings, right? I mean, if you get a bid up on earnings, maybe if Microsoft, Visa, the big boys report, and you get a quarter that's, we know that the quarters are going to be poor. They're going to talk about inflation. They're going to talk about, supply chain challenges. Of course, they're going to say that. But maybe they're not as bad as the market's priced in, or maybe the market has just priced them in, period. And so you've got, a situation where you could get a pop on that. And I think that's definitely likely. This would also be, Microsoft, just for reference here, the 50 moving average is right here, which also coincides almost with that head and shoulders neckline. So that would give you a back test there on Microsoft. We have Meta, was weak earlier today. It did go green. So that obviously we need to watch, but Google here as well. Again, there's your 50 moving average up there. So that could give you, a pop up into that range. If we take a look at the slow pivot here, again, kind of coincides, right? So right in that kind of vicinity would, essentially coincide with that level on the spiders. By the way, take a look at Tesla today. This thing got hit really hard, got sub 200 on the open, and an impressive recovery. It is bouncing back off of that 10-minute 200 moving average, so getting a little bit of a pullback here as we get closer to the close. It's about 3:45 p.m., but a nice reversal there on Tesla. I still think, maybe that has a chance to back test that trend line again, maybe even fill the gap, but a close back below this trend line signals future weakness by the end of the week here. So as we can see, we have a weekly head and shoulders pattern there. So as long as we stay below that neckline, that is in play on a weekly closing basis. So Tesla on the weaker side. Apple really doing a lot of the lifting again. And what have we said over the last couple of months? Whenever Apple has been leading and everything else has been kind of soft, take a look at the semis today, up 40 basis points. But, look at the morning here. This went pretty steeply negative for a while, and it was really Apple just kind of carrying the whole market. And what we've been saying over the last couple of months, when Apple's head and shoulders above everything else, it's usually kind of indicative of just maybe a safe haven kind of play. Like Apple's a safe name, but it's indicative of not a real strong rally, right? It's not, we're not seeing, ARC's negative today. So I don't like to see that. IGV, it's having a nice day. It's up 1%, but not crazily leading the market. And again, the semis, you really want to see better performance for them. Take a look at NVIDIA here, up 1.3%, but AMD barely, this is actually negative here on the day, and that's a daily bear flag there. So little bit of weakness here. I don't like to see Apple leading. I want to see kind of risk on names. I want to see ARC leading. I want to see Cloud Software. I want to see the semis lead. So again, another little red flag here. Let's look at the 2-year Treasury flat on the day. Not a good sign. You take a look here at the daily 20 MA. Not even really testing that right now. So again, you're getting a bit of a pullback off of that level here. And, this was a nice surge on Friday with good volume. But, again, what was the news Friday? The Fed's basically going to pause, right? That's at least the inference that's being made. If there was any sort of conviction to that, don't you think the 2-year would be trading higher right now? Don't you think the 2-year would be able to get above the 20 moving average? Like, I'm not asking for a whole lot here. I mean, just asking you to get above the 20-day moving average. We're not even talking about the 50 yet. Then you look at TLT, new 52-week lows today for TLT. And in the next, we're close to a new closing low here. I mean, we're only 25 cents away or so from a new 52-week closing low. Actually, this is a 52-week closing low as of right now, as per Friday's close, but we're not quite below Friday's low yet on a closing basis yet, is what I meant. But either way, weakness here, 30-year. Again, you had a nice gap on Friday. I thought we would have filled that maybe today. But again, new 52-week highs made today on the 30-year. Same thing with the 10-year. So again, I say all that to say this. Not real conviction. There's still cracks. There's still problems underneath. And we got to recognize this moving forward. When I don't see the bond market confirming anything, when I see Apple leading, when I see the Dow leading, the Dow's up 1.3 today, having a nice day. I don't want to see that. I want to see the semis lead. I want to see ARC. I want to see, Square and, Carvana, stocks like that lead. I don't want to see Apple and Microsoft leading. So again, red flags. Bottom line is we still probably have a little bit more upside. I would give the market probably the upside bias up into that 50 moving average here on the daily. If we get a high volume reversal, then that can change things. I do have a possible, I believe tomorrow is a solar eclipse. I'm not sure. I think it's a partial solar eclipse. Oftentimes you can get pretty violent moves. So we could see a move tomorrow. I definitely wouldn't rule that out. That is a potential mini cycle date there. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that. I have a bigger date coming up, but it's not for a few weeks now. But that doesn't mean we can't still get something tomorrow. Again, bottom line, I do like that level there on the 50 moving average there on the E-mini, spiders, everything else, of course. And so that's what we're going to watch here. But we'll give the market the upside bias for now until we see a major, high volume reversal, either one or. I think 3,900 is kind of a no-brainer risk reward if we were to get up there for a short. If we got there, otherwise we'd look for a, again, high volume reversal and engulfing candle, something of that nature on the broad markets. But anyways, triple Qs here. So again, up 1.15%. Again, still lagging the Dow just a little bit. So not what I want to see. Again, Tesla having a lot to do with that. Semiconductors on the weaker side having to do with that. We basically came up here and let's see, 279.76. I believe that gap was filled. Not quite. Okay, so we didn't quite fill that gap. High of the day was 279.40 here. So we're basically up into that gap fill area. And, you had a little bit of a flag here last week, at the end of last week, and we popped through it. We are going to confirm above this yellow trend line, so that's a positive there. Would have liked to seen that gap fill on the Qs, but for now it's holding up, and we'll give it the upside bias for now. Russell 2000, a little bit on the weaker side, and, we won't make too much out of it just because it's one day here. But the Russell has been kind of a leader here over the last couple of months, and today it's not showing leadership. And on the weekly time frame, like I showed you guys this last week, this is, as clean of a bearish inside bar as you're going to see. Down move there, inside bar, below the 200, below the 20, below the 50, below the 100. So Russell, may have a little bit of a technical bounce, a little bit more upside in it, but this is still a bearish pattern until proven otherwise. And you can see the same thing really across the board. Dow having a nice day though, but the spiders, just to go back to that weekly, it's still kind of, this isn't really that much of a power bar. It's really kind of this one here. But still, big move down and then kind of sideways to upside chop. That's still bearish until proven otherwise. Now, if you close the week above 3,900, that changes everything. But for right now, I'd still give a macro picture bearish, micro picture, meaning short term, we could still see a little bit more upside. Anyways, let's get over here. So we talked about the semis. Again, getting above that daily 20 moving average finally. So that is a small positive here. It looks like we're going to get above Yeah, it looks like we're just above Friday's high, so that is a good sign there on the closing, or for a closing basis. You'll have some resistance though at 190. If you get through that, you get a gap fill, or excuse me, gap window at 195, and then of course above that is 200, the even number. I don't know if it even gets up there. It's definitely been a weak sector, so I'm not sure it even gets up there, but those are the levels nonetheless. Cloud software here up 87 basis points currently. Again, levels are the same. You got the gap fill there, and then that 50 moving average coinciding with that head and shoulders neckline there. So those are your levels to watch on the IGV. Dow Transport's nice day, so up 3% here. That's a good sign for the market. You want to see that. And again, you almost have kind of a similar pattern here, right? So what are we looking at on the ES? Kind of a, a channel, right? And then the same thing here on the DJT. There's the 50 moving average right above that, coinciding with that top side trend line. And again, bearish inside bar on the weekly, a textbook one. And take a look here. What else does this coincide with? 20 week moving average. So right where that top side trend line is, I'd say there's a good amount of resistance here on the DJT. So keep an eye on that moving forward, as that should give you a good reaction, I would have to assume. Then, of course, above that is the gap fill and 100 moving average. So there's some good levels here coming in on the transports and on a lot of other things across the market. We flipped over. We talked about interest rates. Let's do XHB here. Again, some follow through. Still nothing has changed on the weekly. So still bearish inside bar on the weekly. Same thing goes for ITB, up 1.5% today. Nice little follow through day from Friday, but again, bearish pattern on the weekly. VNQ really unchanged today. So again, still showing weakness and can't get above that 20 moving average, even given how oversold it is. Now you could still make a case though that you've got a low here, and now you've got an up move and kind of sideways, sloppy sideways consolidation. So this could still put in an ABC up. I wouldn't rule that out, but again, it is lagging and the clock's kind of ticking, right? Like this needs to start getting up off the canvas now. Because the longer it stays down here, the more, or I should say, the less oversold it's going to get, and the more potential for downside there could be moving forward. But VNQ unchanged on the day, so we'll just leave it at that. XLF did make a daily higher high, so showing a little bit more of relative strength. Again, stalled out at the 50 and 100. You have that red bar high there at 33. We flip on the other trend lines again. You can see we're back above that. No confirmation yet, but if you do make a move up, you'll have that. You'll have some short-term resistance at 33, and then I'd say probably around 33.50, 34 would be more of a major level here. But XLF hanging in there in the meantime. Then XPD again getting above that wedge trend line, so we'll see if it can confirm that tomorrow. But it's had trouble with that 250 moving average recently. So again, I don't see upside being much higher than really these pivots here in that that downsloping trend line above. But for what it's worth, XPD having a decent day, up 0.5%. So we'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Crude, again, nothing's really changed. I feel like this has been kind of a, crude was very exciting for like a week or two, and then it kind of just cooled off here, really just backed off. And it's hanging in there for right now. I wouldn't rule out another little dump in it. Again, the administration wants to keep it lower. We all know what they said to the Saudis. Basically like, hey, can you like hold off on your production cuts until the election, which is kind of almost impeachable if you ask me. But anyways, don't want to get too political here, but all things considered, I wouldn't rule out a little bit more downside here, but I do think it bottoms at or before the election here. Either way, levels haven't changed. Blue trend line, white trend line, and we'll just leave it at that for now. XLE here, continuing higher, so we tagged that upside trend line. Didn't quite get to gap fill. Wouldn't rule out a little bit more upside. This is getting kind of stretched here. I'll admit that. I mean, it's definitely overbought, but still very strong on the daily time frame and weekly as well. XOP flattish to negative. Nothing terrible. He had a nice bid on Friday, just a pause day. Then OIH continues to be a powerhouse right now. Beautiful breakout last week, and that is continuing. So that I would give that the upside bias to about 291, which is the gap fill there. Again, it's very it's very stretched right here. You're into gap window as well, so maybe that pulls back tomorrow. It's overbought, but what can you say? It's holding up really well. And then over to Nat Gas. I like Nat Gas here. So I told you guys that last week. And we came down, basically kissed this trend line. I said over the weekend, nothing to say we can't come down and touch this trend line. We basically kissed it. You could hit that 100 moving average, got a nice pierce, and we're getting a good reaction off of that. Take a look here at the intraday, hourly. This is a beautiful hourly inside bar pattern above the 50, above the 20. So this has legs to move higher. I think next stop is probably 550. You get through that, it's up to $6, and then I think it ultimately gets to gap fill. But I do like the reaction that I'm seeing here on nat gas. Nice little push there off the lows. Full disclosure, I do own Boyle, so just so you know, I am long, but I do like this level very much so here. And again, your first test would be 550. We may even get there tomorrow if we get some follow through off this pattern. And again, again, like I just showed you, that really tight inside bar pattern. We can definitely get there tomorrow for sure. Anyways, let's flip over to the dollar. Dollar index, kind of a nothing burger here today, just kind of sitting in this range, basically flat on the day as the market continues higher. And we're getting a little bit of a pullback here. So into the, yeah, it's about 5 minutes of the close here, actually 4 minutes to the close. So a little bit of a pullback. You know, nothing terrible, but it is a little bit of a red flag here that you're not able to get back above that 378 area. So we'll have to take a look at the close there on the spiders. But again, dollar flattish, even with the market up. So maybe, again, a little bit something of a red flag here moving forward. By the way, the VIX also still green today with the market green. Again, we know that's a red flag as well. So just to add to the pile of red flags that we already see here, at least as far as kind of the big picture. But dollar index, again, holding trend, nothing terrible there. You are below the 20 moving average, but honestly, I don't even care about it until you get below that 50 moving average on a weekly close. So dollar still has an upside bias. Gold holding in there, okay. It is negative on the day. GDX also pulling back, so down 1.6%. That is with bonds getting hit pretty hard. So, you know, gold's holding up right now. It's trying to hold that double bottom. Won't make too much more out of it right now. I do think it does have one more little leg down, but it's holding up for right now. Silver also stalling out at the 100 moving average, but it had a nice bid on Friday, so no real problems there. And platinum also stalling at that 200-day moving average. So if this can give you a bullish pattern or a pullback, I think this is a buying opportunity as well. And then copper here, no follow through, so no confirmation above that trend line, but again, still an inside day, so no real problems on that front. And then Bitcoin also really just no update there, kind of stuck in a range. It is off 75 basis points, so we'll just leave it at that. Anyways, here's spiders trying to hang in here. We'll see. I'd really prefer a close above that trend line there on the daily. This isn't necessarily an exact line. I believe it's 378.38, so yeah, that's not quite. I'm going to draw this in at 378 because that's the actual high of that candle. And market's closing about a minute and a half here. So I think it'll probably at least be able to hold that level here by the close. Yeah, it looks like we're getting a bounce because it would have been a slight extra red flag if we didn't get above that. But for now, it's hanging in there. I like that pattern on the ES. And I do think it's almost kind of like destined, right? Like it just makes sense that we'd go up there and touch that level when you have that upsloping trend line there. And then you see the same thing on a big sector like the transports as well. So those levels kind of coinciding together. Anyways, guys, going to wrap it up here. We'll see what we get tomorrow. Big earnings coming out this week. You guys take care. Come find me on carnivoretrades.com. I'll talk to you all tomorrow.